The global economic reset is not my theory. It is not a work of fiction. It is a historical fact. An event that has taken place at least 6 other times in modern history, and the world is on the precipice of witnessing the 7th global economic reset. When this event does happen, it will fundamentally change the world. Literally overnight, governments will fall, borders will be redrawn, wars will be waged, and economies will collapse. The last global economic reset took place in 1945 after World War II. At that time, England, who issued the world reserve currency, had an economy and country which laid in total ruin. The final collapse of her economic sovereignty laid its roots in a state with too much war, too much debt, way too much elite decadence, and entirely too much political corruption. For over 200 plus years, England maintained its status of issuer of the world's reserve currency. Its all-powerful navy, which spanned the 7 seas, protected all the trade and shipping routes, hence all international commerce, and trade was conducted in the British pound sterling. That is the role of the global reserve currency. All international trade is conducted in the currency that's been selected as the world reserve currency, hence creating a monopoly of global currency supremacy, which creates a tremendous amount of demand from all around the globe for the world reserve currency, or WRC. Just the opposite of currency demand happened in France toward the late 1700s. After a massive bout with hyperinflation, which led directly to the horror show known as the French Revolution, the rest of Europe saw France ill-suited to continue as the issuer of the WRC, and literally overnight no one wanted the French banknotes. What happened next is for the history books. All that hyperinflated currency came flooding back to France. This is what happens when demands for the world reserve currency collapse overnight. By the 19th century, the same financial quagmire that had plagued France centuries before had started to be seen in England. Other countries started to get weary of using the British pound sterling as the WRC. So after the Second World War, the largest creditor nation of the time, the United States, with its vast untapped natural resources, booming population, and military, it became the obvious candidate. A new country the banking cartels could begin to build, then tear it all down, profiting huge along the way. As noted, when England lost the WRC, America was the largest creditor nation in the world. Today, America is the largest debtor nation in the world, and much of the debt and leverage exercised against America with weapons like precision by the Chinese, who seek to control the U.S. by way of its holding of government debt. And by the way, this government debt, often labeled America's debt to say that individuals owe these massive debts, is completely wrong. Instead, I would call it debt from a band of political criminals who have sold out humanity in their respective countries in pursuit of personal gain. But for America, it's not just the money owed to China. It's not about the 17 trillion national debt. It's not about the unfunded liabilities of 250 trillion as recently noted by a Harvard economist and historian. It's not about the 1.4 quadrillion in financial derivatives, 800 trillion which is owed by the 6 mega U.S. banks, along with all the other fraud and deception that has come to define the modern casino culture of Wall Street. It's really about the loss of trust in the U.S. dollar, something which is happening right now all around the world. BRICS nations as well as Europe look to America with all its wars, its political corruption, elite decadence, and massive debts, and they are very concerned. These concerns played out in the multiple bilateral trade agreement which directly bypasses the U.S. dollar, hence creating less demand for U.S. dollars. These concerns ultimately led to a full-blown loss of trust in the WRC, as we saw with England and France before. This is what starts the ball rolling for the global economic reset when other countries that are up and coming on the world stage see that the current financial system doesn't play in their best interest. Particularly countries like China, Russia, and India, all who have had to deal with massive inflation stemming from the dollar debasement policies of the private for-profit U.S. central bank, the Federal Reserve. So these concerned countries seek a way to change that financial system by way of buying hard assets like gold and real estate, while at the same time dumping U.S. debt and exchanging in bilateral trade agreements that ditch the US dollar in global trade, perhaps one of the biggest signs of loss in the dollar confidence as a WRC holder. And that's exactly what we've seen happen the last several years. From the IMF coming out and saying we need to super global currency to the former finance minister of the World Bank, a Chinese national claiming we need to de-Americanize the world, or perhaps it's from people like George Soros himself, who has called China the new engine of global growth. The facts are indisputable. From the bilateral trade agreements that we see taking place around the world to the rise of the BRIC nations seeking to challenge the old school's global currency domination like China, whose government accounts for the #1 buyer and #1 miner of gold in the world. The global economic reset, ladies and gentlemen, is coming. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. What matters is what's going to happen, and the global economic reset will happen because it's happened so many times before in history under the exact same conditions we face today. A country that is riddled with too much war, too much debt, too much elite decadence, and entirely too much political corruption.